I've been as crook as a dog and I really need a haircut. But we're here in September doing August's mock draft. So that's where I'm at Daz HQ. But I appreciate your support, and I've been updating, I should say, the community tab. So I appreciate everyone that has gotten on board and appreciated that you've had to wait for this mock draft a little bit. But we're here. Let's go through the entire first round for the last time in 2024, given that in September we will be rolling with the top 30. And then October, November, it's top 40 time, people, with other draft-themed content on the horizon as well, as we get closer to Generation Next becoming future superstars. So let's do this. So in terms of trades, I've kept it reasonably simple. So the Dan Rioli trade for pick 6 I've got going through. Shea Bolton for pick 9 and 10 has gone through as well. Tom Barras, the Hawks are going to give up their first round pick there, and Geelong are going to for the Bulldogs for Bailey Smith, I suspect. And for the purposes of this mock draft, I am saying, until told otherwise, that Josh Battle will bring band 1 compensation. So St Kilda will have the pick after their first round pick. Cool? I hope so. Let's do this. Harvey Langford, pick 1. 190 centimetres. He's everything that you want and more. I know a lot of Richmond fans are torn on this. I know they're torn between him, Finn O'Sullivan, Josh Smillie is getting a lot of love, and I'll talk about him a little bit later on. Jagga Smith as well, who's been my number 1 for quite a while. And I don't begrudge anyone who disagrees with this in the slightest, but the Lark medalist, he had 33 and kicked 4 only a couple of weeks ago, and I know Jagga had 33 and kicked 2. I'll talk about that when we get to him in this draft, but I'm struggling to find reasons to not have Harvey at number 1. And sometimes it's as honest and as serious as that. But I think the Richmond narrative now, and I find it a little bit amusing, is don't get this wrong. And given the amount of picks that they've got, not everyone is going to be a superstar. But geez, I reckon this guy can. I love him to bits. And I reckon he is the right pick at this point before we get to the draft combine for the Tigers at number 1. Luke Trainor to North at pick 2, and unless someone that works at that football club comes and tells me I'm wrong, or Luke Davies-Uniacke seeks a trade, North taking a midfielder at pick 2 makes 0 sense. Zero, nada, none. So that's what I think they're going to go for. Now, I think they would love pick 9 and 10 off Freo, and I know they want to trade down, and North fans keep telling me, why aren't you telling us who's telling you this? Because if I tell you that, people will stop telling me things. Like, people that I trust and matter in the industry. You know, this isn't my neighbour's ex-husband's boyfriend's sister kind of situation. So until that happens, I'm dying on this hill. Luke Trainor will be a kangaroo until I'm proven otherwise. So that's what I'm going for. And how could they not? Considering this guy's ceiling is James Sicily, he'd be pretty handy at North, I reckon. Levi Ashcroft at number 3. How Nick Dacos was number 4 in his draft year is disgraceful. Make clubs pay. It's a hill that I will die on, but what if it gets to your player? You pay up. Don't go, if we give him less of a discount, right, they won't screw us when it's our turn. What? No. Make them pay. So Levi can go here at number 3. I saw a mock draft recently, a written one, and I don't want to out, because we've all got different opinions, and I don't want to have a go at someone for their opinion, that had Levi at 8, with the justification of, well, Brisbane could look after teams when it's their turn. And that just can't be the way we do things here. Anyway, Levi's going to join Will. The Brisbane midfield is going to get even better. And I think Levi's kind of going under the radar now amongst the draft nuffies, because him to Brisbane is just a fait accompli. So he's not as much fun to talk about, which is a shame, because his numbers this year have been downright remarkable. Got Jagga to the Eagles, and you can insert every bit of love I've given him at pick 1 here as well. This is not an attack or anything like that. It's he or Harvey. If Jagga's your number 1, Harvey would be 4 here at this point. I don't think that changes, again, with my North justification and the Levi Ashcroft talk. So not a bad thing here at all. West Coast would be lucky to have any of them. And alongside Draper and Smillie and O'Sullivan and these guys that are going to get talked about, Murphy, Reid as well, in this conversation, take your pick. I love Jagga. I love the smooth mover. I love what he and Harley Reid would bring as a duo to begin that midfield resurgence. They've still got Elijah Hewitt to come back as well. I think Ruben Jinby out of the centre square is going to be the way forward. I like what he's been doing down back in the back end of 2024, so a tick there. But I love this so much. Jagga to the Eagles is Daz heaven. Awesome. And like I said with Harvey, he had 33 and kick 2 a couple of weeks ago. What more could you want? He's auditioned for Richmond. It'll be interesting to see what they do. But I've got Jagga to the Eagles. Leo Lombard seems high, but that's how I do things here. Again, with the academy, make them pay. And considering the trade of Daniel Rioli to Richmond, they're still going to be able to match a bid here quite convincingly. So no real stress there, to be perfectly honest with you. So let's do this. A mid-forward, he and Jake Rogers are going to operate those half-forward flanks, you would think, quite cleverly for the next few years. And Gold Coast are going to want to get John Noble and Dan Rioli to fix the half-back flanks. So there you go. There's your 4 points to the centre square. Their midfield still needs work, but what Leo is going to be able to do is very, very good. He's very clever. He's quick. His sideways movement, his lateral movement is outstanding, and he makes plenty of good decisions. A wonderful acquisition for the club up north. Finn O'Sullivan to the Crows, who I know Crows fans are not going to be happy about not taking Sid Draper, but I think you've got to go best talent available, and Finn has hit late form, which is good. Kick 3-2 the other week and looks to be in tip-top shape now, which is nice. I know recently he's had another injury setback, which sucks. I understand that, but I think we've had enough exposed form from last year and this year now to be like, yeah, we're golden. I've got no problem if you're a Crows fan thinking, just take the local boy. He's not going to want to go anywhere. I can understand that, but what if I said to you that you'd be able to keep your players if your club succeeds? You know, get good, they won't want to go home. That's also an option. So, Finn, Crows, make it happen. Josh Smillie to the Demons here, who had 26 and kick 2 in his last game for the season, whose ceiling is obviously Paddy Cripps at this point. I don't think there's any denying that in the way that he plays the game. I'm not really sure what his floor is at the moment, which would be an interesting video to put together, I think. But Melbourne, even though Petrarca is likely to stay, he said he's going to stay. We don't know really where they're at with Oliver and Viney. You might be wondering, is another contested midfielder really the way to go? Well, the question that I've kind of got is, what's the downside? Because you've had Trent Rivers through there, who's impactful on the outside. Judd McVie, who I think could be a good midfielder one day, if not halfback flanker, is good on the outside. Considering you don't know the future of Oliver and Petrarca, you've got Tolstrup, who can play forward centre. You've also got Caleb Windsor, who's on the wing. Go get yourself an 18-year-old contested beast and see where the other two are at. Because if Petrarca won't be there in 2 years' time, and Oliver may not be there for round 1, get him in there now. Sid Draper ends up at the Tigers via the Gold Coast Suns trade, which is just another match made in heaven. He and Harvey Langford to kickstart that midfield is golden. I have seen some talk around, well, they're still going to have Taranto, Hopper and Prestia in that side next year. How midfield-centric should they go? And I understand that. But for crying out loud, in 60 games' time, if you want to be pressing for finals, if that's the timeline you want to give yourself, you want to get 60 games in these midfielders rather than waiting on Hopper, who I know is contracted till 2029. Taranto, Prestia won't be there in 3 years' time, so get them in now. Kane McAuliffe is still there, who I'm a massive fan of, and you're going to be able to build around this draft. So there is no team under more pressure to perform this draft than Richmond, as we know. So best talent available, just get them into your footy club. And for me, right now, that's Sid Draper at this pick. Reid goes to St Kilda, who had an absolutely banging game last week with disposals in the mid-30s and kicked a couple of goals as well. St Kilda need a midfielder. He's the best one of the lot so far at this pick versus all of them that are coming behind him. Welcome to Moorabbin. The fact that St Kilda have got 15 players aged 28 or above, now that's already coming down with the retirement or delisting of Seb Ross. So that helps, I suppose, but Brad Crouch, where is he at? Doesn't really matter. Let's build a midfield around Jack Steele as your wily veteran. Heavy on the quotation marks there. And then your Marcus Winhager and your Murphy Reid and your Mateus Filippo. Let's get that rotation going and set yourselves up down the line. That's beneficial for St Kilda. And if they do get the Band 1 compensation, they've also got the next pick, which I don't think Max King's going anywhere. I don't think they go for a key defender at this spot. So call me crazy, but I've got them taking Joe Berry. And considering you might be thinking they've got Higgins and Butler, they've still got Ollie Hotton, who did his knee. What are you doing here, Daz? Seriously, what are you doing? Well, my question is why is St Kilda seemingly a team that was interested in Cozzy a lot? Why do they seem to be around Liam Ryan? Why are they continuously in these talks? Clearly, they want more power. And I don't want to make the mistake I made last year in kind of neglecting Hawthorn in the Nick Watson talks until it was way too late because it seemed like they had enough. And when you've got a guy who could be the best in his position, and he's definitely at this point in time the best in his position available in the open draft, I think that is worthy of massive consideration, which is what Berry is. Isaac Kako's going to the Bombers. We can't help that. And at this point in time, he is the best small forward in the draft. And if St Kilda can add another offensive punch, which they need to do because the first 12 weeks of the year they were awful offensively. Yes, they fixed it a little bit in the back end, but you can always add more. I think it's a pick that not many people will like. I love it, to be honest. Instead of MAGA or something stupid like that, let's go MSSA. Make St Kilda score again. And Joe could help them do that. Jobe Shanahan goes to the Bombers, and I promise I didn't do this because of my Essendon video. Pinky swear. If someone like a Tim Membry does get courted to North Melbourne, I think Jobe Shanahan's the perfect fit for the Saints. So I'm just going to put that out there. But in this iteration of the mock draft, that's not how that's worked out. So this is where we're left with. He and Nate Caddy to build a forward line around is just tip-top beautiful. I think Essendon need to keep Peter Wright, especially if they do get a Shanahan or a forward 50 impact player outside of Isaac Kako. So if they do go for a Harry Armstrong, for example, I think they still need to keep Peter Wright there to take the number one defender off these guys. And if you've got your third tall defender on a Jobe Shanahan and your second tall defender on a Nate Caddy, I think that's going to accelerate their development beautifully. Essendon got a good look at him in their VFL side. Can't get much better than 9 goals in your last 2 games, and I bloody love this kid. Back to the Tigers, and Harry Armstrong is the man I've got for the Tigers. Don't know what's going on with Tom Lynch. Jacob Kosicki was iffy in his first year at the Tigers. I don't really buy Samson Ryan as a tall forward, so they're going to need some replenishments here, and I think he is one that can kick things off. I don't think they'll take another tall forward in the draft, but there still are some available. I'd like to see them maybe in the second or third round go over maybe a Charlie Richardson, who I think could be a really nifty pickup for them, but at this point in time, again, the best tall forward in the draft looks to be Harry, and you're able to get the best player in his position in the draft at pick dozen. That's a win. Structurally, it helps as well, as mentioned before. So you're able to kickstart things that way. I think it's a really good fit for the Tigers. And they can follow it up with Sam Lalor as well. So 4 picks in, 2 midfielders, a midfield forward threat who could probably start his career outside of the centre square and still get AFL exposure, which is what Sam could do. He, alongside guys like Seth Campbell and Ryan Mansell and Morris Rioli Jr. is pretty exciting. Sam's ability to find the footy and the scoreboard at the same time is tip-top. Love his clean skill set, and he's so good below his knees as well. So, I mean, look, we're not going to say anyone is a bust, but you'd be a pretty happy Richmond fan if your first 4 picks went this way. I've got the matched bid for Isaac Kako here, so talked about him a lot, but really crafty small forward. High impact per possession player, which Essendon desperately need in their forward half. I don't want to suggest it's kind of a boring pick or anything like that, but this is pretty predictable. Where it ends up, hard to tell. But if the Bombers can get out of the first round with 2 players forward of centre, I think they're golden. I think they're genuinely golden. Shanahan and Kako, in my opinion, is best case scenario. But even if they go a different direction before the Kako bid comes in, it needs to be someone who can impact post-stoppage. 2 for 2, in my opinion. Carlton take Tobie Travaglia here. Now, it seemed like they were interested in Dan Houston, so why not just go get the best rebounding halfback in the draft here? Just makes a bunch of sense to me, so go ahead and do that, is what I would say. So, not a whole lot to say here. Travaglia's ability to rebound off halfback is top-notch, makes really good decisions. His footy IQ is through the roof and he's really clean. Not a whole lot of complaints there, if you're a Carlton fan, to be honest. Not a whole lot more to say here. It's just a good pick, which, when you're in the middle to back end of the first round, is all you want. Got West Coast taking Tom Gross, which if you compare to his player ranking in a lot of articles, seems quite high, but I think his ability to get up and down the ground, I think his ability to be clean below his knees and ability to impact the scoreboard, West Coast are going to need all the help they can hitting the scoreboard, considering the year that Jake Waterman had, and considering a year that someone like Oscar Allan could have if he has a fully fit run. Adding another offensive bow there could really work out. We don't know what's going on with Liam Ryan and whether he's going to be a full participant next year. Jamie Cripps does not seem to be the player that he was. Jack Darling's probably not going to be there. So bringing in a young guy, and they could have guys like Archer Reid that could float through there as well, but a half forward that can do a couple of things on the footy field that can help you would be a really good start. And I think Gross fits that bill nicely. Taj Hotton ends up at the Giants after his ACL. The Giants would just take best talent available, I think. And I think Taj fits that bill beautifully. It's something like 28 disposals in his opening couple of TAC Cup games, Coates Future League or Talent League games. I apologise. Not a whole lot to say here. Yes, he's another half forward. Do they have too many of those with Bedford, Brent Daniels, Tobie Green? Again, are you really going to turn that down? He's still going to need some time to recover, get himself acclimated into AFL life up to standards. We may not see him at all in 2025. We're definitely not going to see him in a round of single digits. So just let him develop and see what he is. What he can be is a bloody good AFL footballer. So, hard to complain. Sam Marshall to Brisbane as they match their bid, make them pay, is all that I think should happen here. Make clubs pay. And that's what they're going to do here. I really like Sam Marshall. I really do in this draft. And I think he's going to add another dynamic to that Brisbane team on the outside. I love the way that recruiters are pointing out how clever he is. I like the fact that in nearly every report it talks about his decision-making, which is always good. And again, when you get drafted to a really good team, it's not like you need to perform from round one onwards. Right, so if Harley Reid and Sam Darcy were eligible for the Rising Star, like Ollie Dempsey won, he's in the top 4 team, that's awesome. But the Bulldogs aren't a top 4 team, and West Coast didn't make finals. So it's not as if it's a fait accompli that you need to be in a bad team to start your career well. You really don't. And Sam Marshall's going to go to one of the best ones. Beautiful, handy. Do not wait until the mid-20s. If you like him, bid on him. Come on, clubs. Xavier Lindsay ends up at the Bulldogs in exchange for the Bailey Smith pick, and I love this so much. Now, poor Aidan O'Driscoll, who had to retire before his career even got started, is a real shame. And Xavier Lindsay on the other wing to Joel Freyer is frighteningly good, in my opinion. The fact that this lad is able to get up and down and does his best work in the defensive 50 as well as between the arcs makes me very happy. When you think of the best wingmen in the competition, you would argue Errol Goulden, Massimo D'Ambrosio, Blake Acres, Mitch Inge, Lockie Scholl even, throughout some points of this season, Max Holmes for Geelong. Their ability to work defensively is almost as important as front of centre. They almost become the reward, whereas the grind, the hard work and the hustle does come from their work down back. And I see Xavier Lindsay in that mould as well, so that's a huge tick for the Bulldogs. If Freo do get to keep their first rounder at the back end, Bo Allen seems to be the guy that I would go for the pure and simple fact, not because he's a local boy, but because he can play a lot of different positions. What do you need him for? He's there. Again, you're getting drafted to, I know Freo didn't finish in the 8, but you're not getting drafted to a disaster team, so you don't need to come in and perform round 1, 2025, and every week beyond that. He won't need to do that, whether it's defense, midfield, wing, or whether they want another offensive punch at a half-forward flank, who knows? But he's a really good size at 190 centimetres, and I reckon would be an asset beyond 2025, which is what you can do in the late stages of the first round of the draft. The Swans back-to-back, so I've got them taking Jack and Matt Whitlocks, so just, I don't know, have them both up there, I suppose, but the logic behind it is pretty simple. Sydney, what worries me about them moving forward are their tall forwards with McDonald, Amati and McLean, and down back, who's going to help Tom McCartan? Well, in 2 years' time, that question gets answered with both of these blokes who, yes, need to hit the gym and need to get their bodies AFL ready. I understand all that. Eat the gym, which is the expression that you hear a lot around this time. That's fine. What they are now is not what they're going to be in the future. And what they are now are two incredibly smart footballers. I still think Matt needs to be a defender, just my opinion. But both of them can be offensive weapons. Jack definitely will be, and we'll see what happens with Matt. But having these two together as well will keep them at the football club, even though Sydney don't really lose a whole lot. of talent from their footy side and seem to cover them relatively well. And it would be a really good story as well. So how do you go past all of those things? Harry O'Farrell is the last man in the first round for mine going to the Gold Coast Suns. I know they've got Collins. I know they've got Ballard. But if I was Gold Coast, I'd be playing Mac Andrew forward. Having Ben King as your big full forward type. Jed Walters, your big boy. Who the bloody hell is going to stop Mac Andrew in the air next year? And then you've also, hopefully then, going to have a couple of smalls. Athletically, they would be so hard to stop in the air. I know it's Dewey on the Gold Coast. What does that do for them? The easy answer would be there, the athleticism of Andrew and how dangerous he can be on the ground. Jed Walters also a very good pressure forward for his size as well. So I think they can compensate that way. And Harry O'Farrell's ability to play back shoulder means that in a couple of years' time, he'll also be ready to go. Gold Coast don't need another midfielder. They're just going to get Leo Lombard here. They're going to get John Noble. They're going to get Dan Rioli. Not a whole lot they need, so why not get a project for a couple of years down the line? And if you think about the players that are stiff to miss, genuinely frightening the amount of talent that is still on this board. That's why I'm so pumped to do top 30s and then top 40s in the run home. But that's what I think, guys. What do you think? Comment below. Let me know on how you feel about the mock draft. I hope you are having a sensational week. It is good to be back with you. I cannot wait to chat with you soon. The Hawks are playing in the elimination final on Friday. I am terrified for it, but go the Hawks and good luck. If you're a dog supporter, we'll keep it friendly, I promise. And until next time, guys, like the video if you like the video, subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy family, and I'll see you next time.